friends, this is the reading for the Leo Divine Masculine, Twin Flames, October to December. And I've already blessed and shuffled the cards and laid them out, as you can see. So we can go straight into it. So for the overall energy, we have King of Cups. I don't know if you can see that. So the King of Cups is pointing to the Leo masculine, and just to clarify, this could be woman or man. There's no gender specific. It's relating to energies, masculine and feminine energies for these reading. So the energy of the masculine is basically focusing on mastering himself in his emotional life with regards to love and relationships, and mastering that energy within himself. Leo's on this path of facing his subconscious mind and emotions, and knowing himself on a deeper level, enough not to be a slave to those emotions, but rather to learn from them and overcome them, and to derive his power from them. So it's about overcoming the ego, as in with the meaning of ego being the shadow self, as an integrated whole person. Very difficult and powerful path. And so he's very much on the brink of mastering himself on this level, and learning that if he can rise above everything and see this higher perspective and the truth at the center of himself and of everything, there's this massive shift in awareness, and it's not perhaps so easy to maintain that level of awareness, that higher perspective, but even just glimpsing it once is enough to change one's life in a way that your awareness is never going to be the same again. So it's really about learning. He's learning that his emotions have meaning even when they're unwanted, and these are the lessons. This is the karmic cycle that he's completing at the moment, and reaching this level of mastery over. So also at the bottom of the deck we have the Four of Wands, and also the Page of Cups, and interestingly the 10 of Discs and the 9 of Discs as well, which shows a sort of progression in the sense of his material world, and how there's this birth of something new in his work world that's very much connected to the spiritual awakening path that he's on, and committed to building this stable foundation, this new beginning, from a place coming from his heart, whereas before perhaps he'd been building on something more unstable. So this path that the masculine is on of mastering himself, beautiful. So with regards to that, in the energy to let go, we have the Hierophant. So in this card, in this deck, the Hierophant is represented by Babylon as the gateway to a powerful truth that we have inside of us, as opposed to the traditional deck, which features the Pope, which is still very much a symbol of heaven on earth, as man being the expression of divine will here in the physical sense. It's also representing institutions, society, education, religious institutions. So there's very much a sense of him leaving behind, walking away on things that have held him back, related to perhaps the community he was a part of, friends he was surrounded by, society's way of doing things, and recognizing that this is no longer serving him, and feeling very challenged within that realm. And so this is a real message that he's ready to leave this behind. And obviously this is a general reading and everyone's in a different place in their development, but this has either already happened or is something that the masculine is working through, leaving behind. So really breaking through this fear that he's had about stepping into his own power, into his highest vision of himself, and perhaps a more spiritual aspect of himself, which he's been denying. And the key to that really lies in his heart and listening to his intuition and tapping into the emotions that are coming up, these challenging emotions, and trying to understand the messages that are being given to him through listening to how he's feeling and honoring that and learning the messages that are coming through from that, and that really a sign that something needs to change, breaking through illusions of what he felt or what society taught him growing up that success means. And perhaps having reached a certain degree of success in the physical and now questioning why he isn't happy, why with all these things, material things that he's achieved, does he feel that there's something missing? So this sort of brings about a sort of crisis, which I'm really seeing in the rest of the cards. So the fives are very much, as well as being this spiritual awakening, it's also fives are very challenging cards in the tarot. If you can think of 5 as the halfway from 1 to 10, which is completion. Well, 9 is completion, 10 completion with a new beginning. 5 is sort of halfway, so you're kind of halfway from the beginning, and the end, you're sort of the furthest away from the start and your destination. It's a challenging place to be. It's where there's a lot of uncertainty of what you've given up or left behind without really feeling or seeing the material manifestation of what you're stepping into. So that's quite disconcerting, and there's a lot of fear that he's been going through on that specific path, and it's really about him having the strength and courage to let go of those fears and to trust and surrender to where he's being led, his inner calling, this dark night of the soul, which is what I'm seeing unfolding here. It's really a spiritual awakening where everything that is unresolved comes up into his awareness to be faced, to be healed or transmuted. So the energy to embrace and energy that's coming in, following that is the 7 of Discs. So in the 7 of Discs, we really see this completion that is the beginning of the sort of 7 on the path to the 9 of completion. So the work he needs to put in to realize this new path that he's envisioned, that he's awakening to, sort of like the light that's shining, you can see on the other side of the mountain, which is where, he's moving towards. That's his destination, the ultimate level of success in the true understanding that he now has of that, of this unfolding of his true authentic path and the wholeness that he knows he's going to feel when he achieves that. So the 7 of Discs, it's very much about the work he's going to put into himself in order to achieve his magnum opus, his being the architect and artist of his own destiny, and understanding that he can create his own life in his own unique way, moving away from how others have taught him or sort of brainwashed him to believe his path should be, and stepping into his own independent, unique gifts and building his life based on those gifts. So it's really about him creating something new, something beautiful, from this chaos, from this darkness that he feels he's plunged into, and that kind of survival instinct, knowing that there's going to be this light at the end of the tunnel. So it's really about asking yourself, Leos, what is it exactly that you want to do? Who do you want to be? What does this mean? What does this new knowledge and awareness lead you towards, inspire you towards? And understanding that you are the master of your destiny, that you can create the future that you want, and it's just for you to make it happen. So yes, you can put in your intentions and do everything you can to manifest it energetically, but at the end of the day, you need to row for the shore. You need to take the action. So what is it that you want to create, Leos, and where are you putting your energy? How is that leading you where you want to go? So these are really the questions that he's asking himself right now. And so yet to come, as a result of this this strength of stepping on this new path. So 7, again, we have 2 7s here, so this is relating to the Chariot. It really is about taking action, moving forward, integrating opposing energies that the Leo masculine energy is feeling within himself. This inspiration, this new light he's feeling, but also crashing down by the challenges and struggles that he's moving through within that. And so, as with the Chariot, it really is a message about temperance, bringing together and balancing his spiritual self with his material world, and understanding how he can move forward with that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to step into any sort of healer role or spiritual role in his physical work life. It could just mean that he has this extra sensitivity to the impact of his work, and needing to find this new sense of purpose and meaning within the work that he does, and how it's impacting perhaps the planet or other people. So there's this sense of a moral compass that grows within him while he's mastering his higher self and understanding where he wants to put his energies and how that will have an impact externally outside of himself. So in this position of the environment, we have the Knight of Discs. So in this deck, it's featuring the Gautama Siddhartha, Buddha's path of, here specifically sitting under the Bodhi tree. So here it's very much, the message here is about taking the middle path. So the masculine is not dwelling on his past or future expectations, but moving forward by focusing very much on the present moment, surrendering to whatever is unfolding, surrendering to his truth, and trusting that it's going to lead him in the right direction. So with Siddhartha, obviously it's the story of the breakthrough from this sheltered life where he went out into the world and witnessed suffering and was no longer able to return to that bubble. And after receiving this new knowledge, there's no going back, and that's very much how the masculine is feeling at the moment. He's broken through to this new level of awareness and is just no longer able to return perhaps to the role he had before, or the people he was surrounded by, or the society he was in. Could be a specific job he had to leave behind, but just really trying to understand how this awakening will unfold with regards to the material, how he's going to come forward in his work and what an impact that can have in the world. And also understanding the middle path is to look within for the answer, that it's not outside of you. You actually already have all the answers within you, and it's really about letting go of control and understanding that you can't actually, sort of understanding that the world is not going to be fixed externally, that it really is about, it's an internal journey and from within, so without everything that these cycles that need to be healed and completed within ourselves is actually reflected externally, and he's coming to a deeper understanding of that. And so because of that energy to receive, interestingly, we have the Three of Swords. So in the traditional deck, this is very much pointing towards grief, sorrow, loss, some kind of heartbreak that the masculine has experienced recently, perhaps a breakup with a karmic partner, or just generally feeling the blows of all this, all these challenges, hitting rock bottom. I see with the energy to give, we have the 9 and then the 10 of Swords. So there's a real sense of progression here, of developmental progression in his learning with regards to these challenges, the suffering. There's a real dark night of the soul energy going on here, which is culminating in literally in him reaching rock bottom. So beginning with the Three of Swords in this deck, I particularly love it, featuring this dove and these 3 swords. It's making me think very much of Archangel Michael, especially with this little carnelian cherub in the circle of light. But Archangel Michael with his sword sort of cutting through these memories of pain and grief and sadness from his past experiences, and recognizing that they're no longer part of what he wants to experience moving forward, cutting them through, transmuting them. And 3 is about integration and creating a third energy, integration of these 2 opposites that we see in the 7s, which represent the 7, the Chariot in the major arcana. So that's all about integrating one's dark and one's shadow self, one's wounds, and understanding the gifts that they are a part of the learning and journey that he's been on. And this dove representing love and peace that he finds within when he's able to forgive both those perhaps that have let him down, but mainly himself. And there's very much a transformation through this experience, this sort of enlightenment and knowledge and deep understanding that takes place through this transmutation of his shadow self, of his wounds. And this basically leads him to the 9 of Swords, completion of suffering. But in this deck, it really is about a much higher energy, a complete enlightenment, awakening that comes from that. It's kind of like a death, a completion of lessons, a completion of karmic cycles, where he's basically broken through and learnt the deeper gifts that have come from those challenges and from those experiences. And this is really culminating here with the 10. So there's this new beginning, and there's no coincidence. The 10 of Swords very much reflects the Death card in this shedding of his old self, the self that is the death of ego, really. I'm feeling here the death of this former self, which was led by fear, by his shadow wounds, by any pain or sadness that had been driving his actions and his choices, is now going to be let go. And the masculine is very much stepping into this new exalted self that's transcended these experiences and challenges, and understanding that they are part of everything that he knows and everything that, part of his evolution. And his, if you think of a tiger, a tiger is beautiful because of the pressures of his environment. The hardship of his life is what's created this strength and perfection in this beautiful animal. And so the swords can be seen as harsh, but they also pressure the soul to be the highest version of oneself that one can be. So it's very much a lesson of redemption, freedom from the masculine's own mental prisons, death of his ego, and this leap of faith in this new beginning of his new truth that he carries within, where this cycle of suffering is finally able to come to an end, and he's able to break the chains and remove these obstacles, and feeling very much like he's been set free with regards to his life and his thoughts and understanding, or his consciousness, awareness, this complete transmutation of self that he's going to experience. And just beautiful messages here. And I really do feel that, yeah, there is a slight overlap with the experience of the feminine, but this feel like the feminine is just like one step beyond this. She's already gone past the 10 and is already at the new beginning, if that makes sense. So some definite parallels there. But I'm going to close the reading with a message from the Osho Tarot deck and see if there's anything else that needs to come through for you. And I'll read directly from the Osho book. The message is so divinely guided. See what comes through. Flowering, very much so. It's a beautiful message. Let's see what needs to come through. And so that's the equivalent of the Queen of Discs. Very interesting, yeah. I can see that. Beautiful. Flowering. Zen wants you living in abundance, living in totality, living intensely, not at the minimum as Christianity wants you, but at the maximum, overflowing. Your life should reach others. Your blissfulness, your benediction, your ecstasy should not be contained within you like a seed. It should open up like a flower and spread its fragrance to all and sundry, not only to friends but to strangers too. This is real compassion, real love, sharing your enlightenment, sharing your dance of the beyond. The Queen of Rainbows is like a fantastic plant that has reached the apex of its flowering and its colours. She's very sexual, very alive and full of possibilities. She snaps her fingers to the music of love, and her zodiac necklace is placed in a way that Venus lies over her heart. The sleeves of her garment contain an abundance of seeds, and as the wind blows, the seeds will be scattered to take root where they may. She's not concerned whether they land on the soil or the rocks. She's just spreading them everywhere in sheer celebration of life and love. Flowers fall on her from above in harmony with her own flowering, and the waters of emotion swirl playfully beneath the flower on which she sits. You may feel like a garden of flowers right now, showered with blessings from everywhere. Welcome the bees, invite the birds to drink your nectar, spread your joy around for all to share. Beautiful message there. And yes, take faith, have faith, fellow Leos, whatever this suffering, these challenges that you've been experiencing, wherever you are at on this specific path, trust that this is all unfolding as it should, and that there are these cycles are coming to an end, and there are lessons and gifts that are going to come from this newfound strength and clarity, really. This clarity that this is going to feed with regards to a new path, very much not only in mastering your emotions and your love relationships, but also in your work and bringing that love, creative, sexual love energy into the work that you do, and sharing this newfound knowledge and wisdom with others and supporting others from this new, higher wisdom place that you're going to be coming from. It's a beautiful, beautiful reading, Leos. I'm wishing you all the best until the next time. Much love.